What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we are going to be installing a Mishimoto oil cooler and a radiator in the S550 project. Back out here in the garage to do an install for y'all. We have the Mishimoto oil cooler for the S550 as well as the upgraded radiator. First thing we're going to do is pop this thing open. I've always been very impressed with the packaging that comes in any of the Mishimoto products. They make sure everything travels safely. They wrap it in this foam, as well as the wrapping on the inside, which is really cool and really intricate with the Mishimoto logos. And you can see the craftsmanship here on the radiator is impeccable with the welds. This is going to be a thicker radiator, which gives us better airflow. Step over here to the oil cooler. This is very similar to what we did on the previous one with the 15 to 17. So there's not much of a difference in this one except for the mount that the actual oil cooler itself goes to. Again, with the packaging, it's very good here on the Mishimoto oil cooler. You can see the logo here on the plastics, the box that the oil cooler itself comes in, and then I always love this tin container that you get for the oil filter plate. Taking the bumper off is going to be really easy for us because everything's disassembled already, so we can get it to paint. So we're just going to take off the blocks in the corner, and then the bumper lifts right off and we get complete access. Now, since we do have this overflow container here from the Ford Performance Supercharger, we are going to have to get that off. So we're going to have to grab our gear wrench tool set and start pulling that off. This plate down here, it's like 13 bolts or something like that. It's size 13, I think it is. We're going to pop this off, and then we're going to go ahead and get rid of the pump, and we'll be able to start draining everything out here through the back of the radiator as well as the overflow container. Up top, we're just going to start disconnecting our hoses, start taking the stock overflow tank here, as well as the one added on up top here from the Ford Performance Supercharger kit. We're also going to remove the intake tube here off of the engine itself, and then we're going to pull out the intake as well. Then we're going to move over here with our brackets, start removing our brackets so we can get some wiggle here in our radiator, because this is of course going to come out. Disconnecting the upper hose. Make sure that you have like a bucket or something below, because some of this still will fall out of here. With that out of the way, I can now start to wiggle out my fan. You will have to disconnect this. There is a plug. Pull out the radiator. Everything comes out pretty straightforward, as you can see. Now we're good to go. We're going to move some of these clips over from our stock radiator over to the new Mishimoto radiator, because we're going to be having to attach our fan back in here. The other thing too that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this lower hose for the radiator right now, because it connects to the stock oil cooler, and since we're going to be putting in the Mishimoto cooler, we need it out of the way anyway. Making sure to slowly drop this in. We don't want to ding it, bang it around or anything. Falls right back down into the stock grommets. Then we have to make sure that we lift up here on the condenser and get that back into place. We now drop the radiator in. We're making sure we get that in those hooks that it will drop down in, and then we're going to bolt that into place into the clips that we had just put over there from the old radiator after everything is lined up. Putting back on the stock upper hose, and then we're going to drop in the lower hose that is provided by Mishimoto from the oil cooler kit. This is going to be more of a band type in here rather than the stock clip-on. And we're also going to start putting back in our stock overflow tanks and making sure that everything is bolted up, as well as putting on the hose for the overflow tank onto the new Mishimoto radiator. Here's the plate that's going to be holding in our oil cooler. You know, I've done this stuff before on the previous S550, but I can never get over the quality and the presentation of Mishimoto. This is awesome. I'm going to slide this shield up underneath our core support bracket here, and then it's going to line up with some existing holes, and we'll drop the bolts provided by Mishimoto in place. And this is going to be what we attach our oil cooler to. And then I removed the seal, and then I'm just going to slide it back on because it was easier for me to get the actual mount plate in place. With it in place, then we're going to go ahead and put our oil cooler up here.
We're gonna put it in place, drop the bolts in, and then once it's in there, we're gonna slide it back as far as we can, making sure that we don't hit any of our cooling stuff for our supercharger or our condenser. But with this, we have plenty of clearance so we can slide it all the way back once we get our bolts in place and ready to tighten it down. We already have the deflector shield off. We're gonna get this rear shield off so that we can get access to our oil filter here. Pop that off, let it drain down into the pan. And then right here you can see we can put in a Allen wrench in there, and we'll pull out the center, holding it in place, and then this here should just drop out. Just be careful removing this because coolant will fall out if you didn't fully drain the system, but that's why I had this pan here in place. Again, with the packaging here, I love this. It comes in this tin container here, very recyclable, so it's great for the environment. So we open it up. Inside, we're gonna have our plate where our new filter will go onto. Inside here, we'll remove the foam, and then we have access to our plate, which underneath here, we also have our new center bolt that'll hold everything in place. This thing's pretty good. I like the quality on it. You can see this here is where our oil filter is gonna sit, and on the back side, we have a seal that is gonna mount up against the engine block. Down here is where we're gonna be putting in our new A&N fittings. Here are the A&N fittings that Mishimoto sends with us. They are black anodized. Pop it out of the package, looks pretty good. It's got a washer, seal washer here that'll go up against there, make sure that you're not getting any leaks. And then we can just screw that into the plate right here. I'm gonna wrap some tape around it, that way I don't scratch it up too bad when I am tightening everything down, if I could get my tape to work properly. And then we'll just go ahead and tighten that down snug, and we will be good to go once we get the other one on. Wrapping the lines up, we are going to take the long side over, of course, to the passenger side, and then run these down. Make sure we get a little bit of oil here around the seal that'll match up against the engine, and then pass in the center bolt. This here we're going to tighten down with a socket. With this, you also need to make sure to watch out for the lines. I had to make sure that it was angled properly so it didn't hit the belt, and then also so that it does not hit the thicker sway bar that we have in place. Once the oil filter is in place, we can pop back up here, start putting our radiator brackets in place, and then I'm going to go ahead and mount my oil separator here, and then I'm also going to go ahead, drop back in place my intake, and then put the intake tube back onto the engine. Once the system is set up, put some coolant in it, and we're gonna be ready to rock in no time. So now that we got the oil cooler and the radiator installed, hopefully it'll help keep all of our temperatures down. As you can see behind me, I have started taping off the vehicle, getting it ready for paint. I'm kind of on the fence deciding whether or not we're gonna do a video out of that, outsource it, or what we're gonna do. But we have more coming up with this vehicle in future videos, so make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit those bell notifications. That way you don't miss anything that's coming up on the channel. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.